Chapter 161. Faye hurriedly stepped forward to speak up for Earl. She asked, "Shouldn't you get to the bottom of this before taking anyone away? These guys are the ones surrounding my friend. He only retaliated to defend himself. The plump guard didn't care about that. I don't care who was the one who threatened the other. I'll take away whoever dares get physical." He waved his baton, wanting to take Earl away. Meanwhile, his colleague tried to take Faye away. She'd spoken up for Earl, so the guards suspected they were in cahoots. Just as the tension peaked, there was another commotion outside the crowd. Faye's friends had run over to check on things when they heard someone was trying to take her away. One of them was Layla, who was a member of the student council. She had no idea what was happening and asked, "Who's trying to take Faye away?" Faye was overjoyed to see her and the others. "I'm here, Layla, hurry up and come here." Layla's expression lit up when she saw Faye. She ran to the ladder. Faye was about to introduce her to Earl when she cried in surprise, "Is that you, Soul?" Everyone was stunned by her question. Then, chaos erupted. "Soul, where's Soul?" They looked around for him. Faye looked at Layla curiously. "What are you talking about, Layla? This is Earl Hernandez, my middle school classmate. Did you just call him Soul?" Alex, Anna, and the plump guard looked at Layla warily, but she didn't have eyes for anyone other than Earl. The plump guard didn't insist on taking Earl anywhere when he saw Layla. The student council was ultimately the one in charge of maintaining the order, after all. It was better not to act rashly since he wasn't sure of the situation. Earl smiled in resignation. He never would have expected to run into Layla here. Now, it looked like he couldn't maintain a low profile even if he wanted to. Layla pointed at Earl when she saw Faye's confusion. She stammered, Did you say he's your middle school classmate?" Faye nodded. Layla gestured wildly and asked, "You seriously have no idea who he is?" Faye nodded again, this time in confusion. She'd wondered more than once whether Earl and Soul were somehow connected, but she'd never drawn the dots. To her, Soul was like a god in the music industry and held a special spot there. Meanwhile, Earl was far from a god despite him no longer being the nondescript young man he'd once been. He was slowly making a name for himself but couldn't be compared to Soul. Yet now, the dramatic look on Layla's face seemed to hint at something. Faye's jaw dropped slightly, and she turned to stare at Earl. Could it be? Would Layla's answer be the same as the one that was slowly forming in her heart? Anna and the others looked at Layla nervously, waiting with bated breath for her answer. It would prove to be something that would send shockwaves through the crowd. Chapter 162. Sure enough, Layla pointed at Earl and cried excitedly, "I swear on my life that he's Soul. I told you about him before, remember? Gosh, didn't you have any idea who he was? Was the truth out just like that?" Faye's jaw dropped. Layla's words were too mind-blowing. Her heart raced as she wondered whether Layla was playing a huge prank on her. How could Earl be Soul? How was that possible? Everyone else was also stunned. Earl was relatively handsome, but there wasn't anything special about him, and he didn't have an entourage with him. How could he be Soul, the singer who'd taken the music industry by storm and made countless people scream for him? How could that be possible? Soul was one of the music industry's hottest singers. Even if he didn't have an entourage with him, he would at least have bodyguards to protect him, right? How could he be strolling around so lackadaisically? However, upon taking a closer look at Earl, the crowd found that his good looks aside, his mannerisms and behavior were similar to Soul's. In fact, the more they looked at his figure, the more familiar it became. The women started thinking that if Soul really were as handsome as Earl, he would fit the image of the dream lover many women had conjured in their minds. Faye still couldn't believe it, though. She thought she knew Earl well enough. "Layla, are you sure you don't have the wrong person?" The security guards looked nervous. They were worried that if Earl really were Soul, they would be in for unimaginable consequences if they defended him. Alex and his friends tensed. The former stammered, You must have the wrong guy. How can someone like him be Soul?" The name brought them immense pressure. No one would let him off the hook if they were to find out he'd picked a fight with Soul. Anna didn't take her eyes off Earl. The news was equally shocking to her as it was to everyone else. Layla gave Alex a disdainful look before turning back to Earl in concern. Are you okay, Mr. Soul? You're not hurt, are you? Should I have a doctor check on you? Thanks to Soul's immense popularity and influence, the concert's organizers and the university administration wouldn't sweep the matter under the rug if anything were to happen to him. Since the student council members were in charge of maintaining the order, the university would also punish them for their neglect over the matter. Who knew whether they'd still be able to hold their positions as student council members? Earl sighed softly at the anxious looks on everyone's face. I'm fine. Layla was relieved to hear that, but her attitude and Earl's tone made everyone feel like the situation was only getting more ridiculous. It was surreal, even. Why? Because Earl hadn't refuted Layla's words. Instead, he'd calmly accepted her concern. That meant he was indirectly admitting he was Soul. Could he really be the renowned singer, Soul? Faye and Anna were thoroughly dumbfounded. They'd both been prejudiced against him but now found that he was much greater than they'd thought. Faye appraised Earl again. She found him familiar yet unfamiliar. Suddenly, she didn't think he was the Earl she'd known anymore. Still, was this true? Nothing could be believed without proper confirmation from someone with authority. However, what happened next thoroughly wiped away the remnants of everyone's doubts. A car's honk broke through the tension. Two luxurious and sleek black cars drove toward the crowd as everyone watched. The extended bodies and Maybach logos on them made it clear how much they were worth. The crowd parted for the cars, allowing them to pull up beside Earl. The door opened to reveal two men in black. They got out to open the back door. Then, Felix got out with a bright smile. He approached Earl and said, I was worried you wouldn't have anything to get you back to campus. Superstar. That's why I immediately arranged for the company to send you 2 cars. I'm glad I found you. Now, hurry up and get in. I'll take you back to campus now. Chapter 163. The students knew nothing about Felix, but the security guards worked for the organizers. They knew very well who Felix was. The plump security guard immediately saluted respectfully and greeted, Good day, Mr. Chambers. That was enough to tell the students that Felix wasn't a regular Joe. They started whispering among themselves as they asked their friends who Felix was. Soon, someone recognized him. They answered in a hushed voice, That's Felix Chambers, the general manager of Starlight Entertainment. He's the organizer for the All-Star concert. What? Are you sure you have the right guy? I'm positive. My dad had the honor of having a meal with him once. It's definitely him. Even Layla was respectful to Felix. After all, he was the general manager of one of the nation's top entertainment companies. Many of Irene Music Academy's students would end up working for him in the future. The students' words and the respectful looks on the student council members' faces made everyone else settle down. No one dared doubt Felix's identity anymore. When they saw him greeting Earl so respectfully, it was clear enough who the latter was. The crowd couldn't think of any other possibility. He had to be Soul. After all, Soul was the only person who could make the general manager of Starlight Entertainment humble himself and act so ingratiatingly. Is he really Soul? It is him. Oh, my goodness. The truth is out. I can't believe we were so close to Soul. We had no idea. Faye didn't speak. Her lips were parted slightly in shock, and she stared at Earl in disbelief. It seemed she still couldn't accept his true identity. Still, it didn't matter whether or not she believed it. That wouldn't change the truth. Suddenly, she felt like she was only just starting to understand Earl, a person she'd known and had lived in the same neighborhood with for years. He looked unaffected, but his features seemed gentler, and his eyes seemed brighter under the lights. There was something attractive and charming about him when paired with his tall stature. Anna was equally stunned by this revelation. Her heart raced, and her limbs went numb. Everything had happened so suddenly, this was beyond her imagination. Alex and his 2 friends stood there stiffly. Their arrogance had disappeared the moment Earl's identity had been revealed. Fear filled their eyes. Ultimately, they were just regular students. Perhaps they could be obnoxious toward their fellow students, but they were nothing more than pests when facing someone of renown. Silence descended upon the crowd once Earl got into a Mercedes-Benz and left. The students who'd wanted autographs or photos forgot their objectives. they watched dazedly as Earl was taken away. Perhaps it was the shock of the revelation of Earl's identity or the astonishment of learning what he was capable of, they forgot to do anything. The plump security guard was the first to snap to his senses. His expression shifted, and he waved his baton before pointing it at Alex. "You're coming to the security room with me." Layla stuck her hands on her hips and glared at Alex. "You're the one who tried to attack my idol, aren't you? You've got some nerve, coming to our university to stir up trouble. Come to the security room with us." The student council members hurriedly surrounded him, not wanting to give him the chance to escape. Chapter 164. The spectating students joined the fray, forming a tight circle around Alex and his friends. Now that they knew Earl was Soul, how could they allow Alex to get away with wanting to assault their idol when he'd picked a fight in the first place? This was nothing less than a desecration of their faith and an insult to them. They wouldn't let Alex off the hook for this. The young women were particularly aggravated. They waved their fists and shouted, "We have to beat him up to avenge Soul. We can't let him get away. Seize him to seek justice for Soul." Chaos descended once again after Earl's departure. The security guards and student council members weren't the only ones after Alex and his friends. Soul's fangirls and their boyfriends or admirers were out for Alex and his friends' blood. They wanted to teach them a lesson. Alex had long since dropped his arrogant attitude. He shrunk back and tried to defend himself. "Why are you seizing me? I've already taken a punch." His two friends were evidently terrified by the chaos, their legs were trembling. They were surrounded on all sides, which scared them silly. The plump guard glared at Alex. "Who cares whether you took a punch? I'm seizing you because you tried to start a fight in public." He swung his baton at Alex's back, but the latter dodged. Then, Alex cried angrily, "How dare you try to hit me, you bastard! I'll kill you." He decided to face the music since he couldn't flee. He pounced on the plump guard, catching him off guard. The guard took a punch to the face. The other security guard wanted to help, but a single punch from Alex sent him falling onto the ground. Most of the student council members were women, so they forgot to try to break up the fight out of fear of Alex's ruthlessness. Just as he was starting to feel smug, the rest of the spectators decided to take action. They couldn't stand him anymore. Someone shouted, "He's the one who tried to beat Soul up, and he assaulted a staff member. We have to teach him a lesson for being so obnoxious. Yeah, let's beat him up. How dare he stir up trouble at our academy? Let's give him the beating of his life." Soon, Alex was left bruised and battered on the ground. He was barely breathing. Anna was scared by this but still quick enough on her feet to salvage the situation. She said, "We have to go after Soul, guys. We can't let him get away." Those fans who'd been beating Alex up suddenly snapped to their senses. How could they have forgotten that they were there to get Soul's autograph and a photo? They abandoned Alex and turned to run after the two cars, but they were long gone. Faye remained where she was. Her thoughts drifted as the cars drove off. The image of the calm smile on Earl's face as he'd gotten into the car kept replaying in her mind. If not for Felix's respect toward him and Layla's delight upon seeing him, she would have continued thinking of him as the guy next door who would have only occasionally popped into her mind. She didn't know when it had happened, but thoughts of him had slowly started taking root in her heart. She'd always felt superior to Earl, for whatever reason. Every time she passed by the low, shabby courtyard on her way to her grandfather's house, she would always catch sight of him. Back then, he wasn't particularly noticeable, but there'd been something rebellious about him as he looked at her with inexplicable longing and affection. At the time, Faye had always felt proud. She'd enjoyed the feeling of being admired by someone. As her father's business expanded, the gap between her and Earl had widened. She still remembered how it had felt when Earl had confessed his feelings before her by the riverside with everyone watching. There'd been stars twinkling in the sky, and a bonfire had burned brightly on the beach. The light from the flames had illuminated his face, making him seem so brave and earnest. When she'd rejected him, he hadn't looked depressed or sad. Instead, there'd only been the determination to become better and start again after getting over his initial sadness. Perhaps that was when he'd embarked on his journey to save himself. He'd become the top scorer in the state and sung those ballads. Now, he was taller and more handsome than he'd been back then. Earl had slowly become the man he currently was without Faye noticing. Despite achieving such success, he was still humble and maintained a low profile. If not for this accidental encounter, she would never have learned these new things about him. Without even realizing it, he'd become more and more like the ideal guy she imagined she would end up with. Faye's eyes grew brighter as she realized she had to work harder. She couldn't let Earl look down on her, she wanted to be more outstanding. Chapter 165. The Grand All-Star Concert held by Irene Music Academy came to a successful close. Various videos and discussions about the performances that day circulated online. The hottest topic, of course, was why Soul had appeared on stage with a mask. Though everyone knew who he was, they wondered whether he hadn't had the nerve to show his face because he was ugly. However, those who had seen Soul in person quickly denied this. There wasn't just one witness, after all. Several people had seen him. They described in detail how tall and handsome Earl was, especially how charming his eyes had been. In short, Soul's face wasn't one that would disappoint. As for the reason he'd worn a mask on stage, the only explanation was that he'd done it on purpose to ensure people would continue talking about him. People would only be more interested in him if they didn't know what he looked like. Sure enough, the online discussion about him proved this. More rumors about Soul started to surface. It was said that he was actually a top student at Alnugo University. The news spread with such detail that there was even a video of Felix driving Earl back to campus as proof. This was enough to cause a stir. The news spread like wildfire throughout Alnugo University, making even the dean of the music faculty start to secretly check whether there was such a hidden expert in the academy. If it was true, the music faculty would undoubtedly become Alnugo University's top faculty, especially since it already had Luca as one of its students. He'd already gained fame, after all. This meant the faculty would have the capability to go head-to-head with Irene Music Academy, perhaps even overtaking it. Belle read the news while seated in her dorm. She muttered, "I've been seeing news of this all day. Is this mysterious Soul really one of our faculty's students?" Gigi nodded. "I think it's possible. Who could it be, though?" Luna was putting on makeup. She asked cheerily, "Do you think it could be Flynn Osborne? He's a pretty good singer." Remy instantly protested, "That's impossible. I don't like his singing, and his voice doesn't have the sort of magnetism that Soul's does." Gigi agreed, "It can't be Flynn. He would have announced his identity to the world long ago if he really were Soul." Luna and Belle nodded, agreeing that Soul's ability to remain humble and discreet after attaining success was admirable. On the contrary, Flynn was the type to spread the word about him being at the top of his class as a child. There was no way he'd be able to maintain a low profile. The female students in another dormitory were also talking about Soul. Queenie was excitedly sharing her experience of watching the concert live and seeing the celebrities in person. She also showed her dorm mates the autographs she'd gotten. Jenna, Anya, Jessica, and Miranda listened with interest, looking envious. Anna was the only one who sat quietly in her seat. She didn't say a word. "Why haven't you said anything, Anna? Didn't you go to the concert with Alex yesterday?" Anna forced a smile. "Yeah, I did. I just feel a little ill now." "Oh, okay." Queenie nodded. Then, something occurred to her. "Wait, remember hearing about Alex getting into a fight with someone yesterday? What's up with that?" Rumor had it the matter had gotten quite serious. Alex had even ended up in the hospital. However, Queenie didn't know the details because Anna hadn't gone into them. Chapter 166. Anna shook her head weakly. It was just an argument with someone. It wasn't a big deal. Alex had indeed ended up in the hospital after being beaten up by Soul's fans. He'd offended Soul, otherwise known as Earl. Naturally, Soul's fans retaliated. Even Anna felt that Alex had brought this upon himself. When Queenie saw that Anna didn't want to delve into the subject, she lost the mood to gossip. She grabbed her new LV bag and left to go shopping. Anna looked at Miranda and asked softly, "Mimi, what would you do if you accidentally lost the chance to have a perfect relationship?" Miranda didn't understand why Anna was suddenly asking that. After some thought, she said, "You can always try to get it back if it's something that you truly can't move past." Anna's eyes seemed to gleam with a hint of tearfulness. "What if I can't get it back anymore?" Miranda sighed. "If that's the case, all you can do is try your best to move past it. Look toward the future." "Yeah, I guess you're right. This is the path I chose, so I have to make it to the end, no matter how difficult it is." Anna nodded. She understood this, but it was easier said than done. Not everyone knew that Earl was Soul, only a minority knew, including Faye and Anna. There were many more concertgoers like Bianca and Queenie who'd brushed past Earl's brilliance without knowing it. Gigi, Remy, and Luna had also missed him, let alone Belle, who hadn't even attended the concert. Earl's brilliance shone like a dazzling shooting star. It left countless people in awe but ultimately disappeared in the night sky without a trace. More and more rumors started spreading about him online, though. The day after the concert, Earl returned to his dorm as usual and grabbed his books to study. It was as if the rumors taking the world by storm had nothing to do with him. He was still the plain man he'd always been. He hadn't even managed to become the head of the dormitory. People would only remember him when he occasionally demonstrated his brilliance. Just then, Isaac entered the dorm with a bottle of beer along with their classmates from other dorms. Isaac popped open the bottle and said to Earl, "Let's have a drink, man." Earl picked up a glass and waited for Isaac to continue. He took a sip before saying, "All of us heard about Samuel and his family, and we admire you for silently helping him. Here's a toast to you." Isaac was a straightforward and generous guy. He and Earl clinked glasses, and the rest of their classmates followed suit. It turned out everyone had already heard about what had happened with Samuel's family and also the help Earl had silently provided. They lamented the difficulties Samuel faced and admired Earl's kindness. Isaac had even started a charity drive to help collect funds to help Samuel and his family. At this moment, the bond between classmates was on full display. Isaac didn't come from a wealthy family, so he only donated $500. Ronnie had never gotten along with Samuel, but he still donated $1,000. Joshua, who'd always looked down on Samuel, even donated $3,000. As for Luca, he had no idea what had happened because he was away on an inspiration-gathering journey. He hadn't participated in the charity drive. Though the students occasionally fought, there was no denying the genuine bond between them. Many years later, when they thought back on this time, they would realize that the strong bond was all that remained. All the grudges held would slowly melt away. While Earl drank with his classmates, Joshua lay in bed as he played a game on his laptop. It was as if he didn't hear the conversation. Everyone else dispersed after a few drinks. Earl went to his desk to start coding when Joshua finally got up. He pulled out some snacks and hard liquor from his drawer and said, "Earl." Chapter 167. Joshua had always been arrogant. In the past, he'd scorned Earl and Samuel, thinking there was a gap between them that was impossible to bridge. It was a gap that existed because he came from a wealthy family in the city while the other two came from poor families in remote towns. So, Earl couldn't help feeling surprised when Joshua called his name. The latter scooted closer and poured Earl a glass of whiskey. His expression was sincere as he said, "I sincerely apologize for my prejudice and rudeness to you. I'll down my drink to prove it." He downed 3 glasses of whiskey, and his face started turning red. He seemed a little dizzy after drinking. It was clear he couldn't hold his liquor well. Still, he poured Earl a drink. He started to slur from the liquor as he said, "Big Earl, I'm gonna call you that from now on. I respect you for being honest and straightforward. You handle things with integrity, too. Drink however much you want. I'm downing mine." He downed his whiskey again. His actions reduced Earl's dislike of him, so Earl downed his drink, too. As the liquor started taking effect, Joshua started speaking more. He grew agitated, too. "You're the true good guy here. I heard about what happened to Samuel, and I genuinely admire you for handling it the way you did. I'm genuinely sorry for my previous attitude toward you." He seemed to have had a revelation and started humbling himself. It was clear he truly respected Earl now. After another glass, he continued, I later realized that I really should show you more respect. Not only have you handled Samuel's matter better than I would have, but you're also much better at basketball than I am. I have to thank you for not getting even with me when I kept challenging you back then. If you're okay with having someone like me as your apprentice, I'm more than willing to have you as my mentor. What do you say? These words came from Joshua's heart. He was truly moved by Earl's actions. Perhaps Queenie leaving him had also dealt a blow to him, making him re-examine his behavior in university. Or maybe his defeat in his beloved basketball had made him realize he wasn't all that great. Or maybe Earl's actions had just gotten through to him. Earl didn't say anything. Instead, he clinked glasses with Joshua and downed his drink. Friendship between men was just that simple. Even if they'd clashed in the past, 2 drinks were all it took to break the ice. That was how they usually became fast friends. Earl and Joshua continued drinking until late at night, emptying 2 bottles of whiskey and finishing most of the snacks Joshua had provided. The latter staggered to his bed and soon fell asleep. With the money Earl had earned from the All-Star concert, Panzer Saga 2, and his second mini-game, Soar, was approved by the authorities and officially launched. The success of Panzer Saga had given Earl and Patrick the experience they needed to advertise and promote their new games with ease. Moreover, Panzer Saga's endorsement led to most major recommendation apps willingly offering prominent placement for both new games. To the recommendation platforms, Drakengard Games' new releases would undoubtedly garner plenty of attention. Panzer Saga remained high on various popular gaming sites' rankings, so there was no doubt Panzer Saga 2 inches would be a huge hit. The only question was whether it could surpass its predecessor. How much money would Drakengard Games make? Chapter 168. As for the new game, Soar, no one dared to guarantee that it would perform well. However, based on Drakengard Games' past success and the acknowledgement from the majority of the gaming community, the recommendation platforms had reason to believe it would do as well as Panzer Saga had. Many advertisers started discussing collaborations with Drakengard Games, hoping they could insert some advertisements in the 2 new games. As expected, Soar and Panzer Saga 2 inches swiftly took over the market upon release. The players who were already obsessed with Panzer Saga turned to explore Panzer Saga 2. Meanwhile, Soar proved to be a wholly entertaining game. It swiftly shot to the top of the newly released list, even climbing the ranks of the top 10 most played games. Drakengard Games took the opportunity to ramp up the promotions for Soar, wanting to turn it into the next biggest thing after Panzer Saga. Their efforts didn't go to waste. Soar's popularity surpassed even Panzer Saga, becoming another legend in the mini-game industry. Ronnie was an avid gamer and huge fan of Drakengard Games. He was one of the first to download Soar and Panzer Saga 2. Even late at night, his dorm mates could hear the background music specific to Soar on his phone. Isaac, in particular, wasn't too happy about that. Ronnie didn't stop at playing the games. He also strongly recommended his friends to try them out. As the developer of the games, Earl naturally hoped to have more gamers like Ronnie love and support his games. Have you played Soar, that new game? Of course. Damn, it's a lot of fun. It's so much more exciting than those other parkour games with non-stop power-ups. It's even connected to Panzer Saga. I think it's great, too. Drakengard Games is amazing. I'm already following their official account. The games they've developed are seriously the best in the industry. For a while, the 2 games were the topic of avid discussion and focus among gamers. Drakengard Games took the spotlight again as their games shot to fame. They also attracted the attention of many finance and game-related media. Alnugo TV's finance channel even invited Patrick to come on their show to share his experience and talk about Drakengard Games' achievements thus far. To Drakengard Games, this was undoubtedly an honor and recognition of their capabilities and success. At the same time, a technology summit forum was about to be held in Alnugo. Drakengard Games had the honor of getting 2 invitations to the forum. Patrick and Earl would be attending together in hopes of obtaining more opportunities for collaborations with other companies. With the success of several games, Drakengard Games' capital steadily grew, and the company continued to expand. It would soon be graduation season, and the company would be recruiting new people to join the team. A rising star among tech firms, Drakengard Games was an attractive choice for the graduating class of many prestigious universities, Alnugo University included. The company was invited to participate in the university's graduation job fair, which was yet another recognition of its abilities. Patrick had mixed feelings as he looked at the invitation from Alnugo University, which had been placed on his desk. He remembered the devastation he'd felt when being expelled last year. In only half a year, he'd turned the situation around and was about to return to his former home ground to recruit new talents for Drakengard Games, the company of which he was now CEO. The vast disparity was unbelievable. At the same time, he had plans to purchase a few company cars to keep up with the rate of expansion at which the company was growing. It was intended to improve the conditions in which the employees and managerial staff traveled. This wouldn't just make business trips and meetings easier, it would also help maintain the company's image and reputation. Chapter 169. Earl had no objection to Patrick wanting to purchase company cars. He continued focusing his attention on perfecting his minigames and developing new ones. He also started the serialization of the background structure and historical storyline of Legend of the East, his new large-scale game. The background structure turned out to be a huge hit online, and it increased expectations for the upcoming game. Aside from work and studying, Earl would also head to the campus radio station on time daily to broadcast with Bianca. The time he spent there was the happiest and most relaxed in his day. Since their duet on Timeless Years, they'd often played together during the broadcast. They didn't often choose classics, but Earl could always harmonize with Bianca on the go. Bianca's singing was also wildly popular among the students. Their seamless teamwork made Earl feel like he'd found his soulmate, but Bianca seemed to only think of him as a highly capable partner. Either way, he couldn't glean anything special from her expressions. As for Belle, she and Earl had stopped coming into contact with each other after the meeting with her father. It seemed she was sticking to her promise to stop disturbing Earl. She disappeared from his life after appearing in it for a short time, like a temporary visitor in his home. Earl was a little regretful over her departure. He'd once been interested in her, after all. However, their current situation was the best ending for them both. They were from different worlds and had only encountered each other by chance. Meanwhile, Faye hadn't tried to contact Earl despite knowing his true identity. Life wasn't a novel, there was no such thing as countless fangirls tripping over themselves to be with the main character once he revealed his true self. Earl was famous, but Faye was proud and principled. Even if she admired him, she wouldn't easily change her mind over a decision she'd already made. That evening, the end of Bianca's song signaled the end of the happiest moments in Earl's day. After the broadcast was over, the familiar black Mercedes-Benz pulled up outside the building. Leslie entered the building and headed upstairs to invite Bianca for dinner again. He hadn't given up despite her turning him down each time. In fact, he'd intensified his pursuit of her after her birthday. However, her attitude toward him had evidently cooled. She had various excuses to turn him down whenever he asked her out. This time, Bianca shook her head apologetically and said, "I'm sorry, Leslie. I have a performance today, so I won't have time for dinner." Leslie looked disappointed. He wanted to say something else but could only leave without another word when he saw the cool, stoic look on her face. Earl was pleased to see Bianca reject Leslie. He couldn't help asking, "If you're turning even someone like Leslie down, what's your ideal boyfriend like?" She blushed slightly and shot him a look. Then, her eyes sparkled as she said, "He doesn't need to be too rich, but it's important that he's kind, strong, and well-educated. It'd be best if he were more knowledgeable than me." Her voice was gentle, and her gaze was expectant. Just like all other women her age, she desired to love and be loved. It was just that she'd yet to meet the man who made her want to give him her heart. Just then, Earl's phone rang. Isaac was calling to invite him for dinner. Chapter 170. Earl bid goodbye to Bianca and returned to his dormitory. There, he found Isaac, Joshua, and Samuel, who'd just returned from his hometown, waiting for him. It turned out this was also a welcome back party for Samuel. Joshua had given Earl a proper apology after the incident with Samuel, so this was the first time everyone in the dormitory was so unionized, except Luca, who had moved out of the dorm. The welcome back party was held in a relatively upscale restaurant. It had a good ambience, and Joshua told them there were occasional performances by talented musicians. If they were lucky, there was even a chance for them to run into popular celebrities. This was Samuel's first time at a restaurant of this scale. He was starting to feel a little awkward when Earl said to Joshua, "This restaurant's pretty upscale. It's not too expensive, is it? I've never eaten at a place like this before." Joshua laughed at that. "We're throwing a party to welcome Samuel back, so it's on me. Go ahead and eat to your heart's content." Samuel relaxed when he heard that. During the meal, Joshua apologized to him and asked for his forgiveness, saying things like he'd been blind in the past. He also promised that he and the rest of their dorm would do everything to help Samuel if ever necessary. This warmed Samuel. He clinked glasses with Joshua, and they downed their drinks. As they chatted, Isaac asked Joshua about his relationship with Queenie. Joshua indifferently said that Queenie had cheated on him and that they were on the verge of breaking up. That made Isaac fall silent. Meanwhile, Earl comforted Joshua, telling him that none of his relationships had ever worked out. Joshua knew a few things about what had happened between Earl, Belle, and Anna, so this put him in a better mood. That was what humans were like. With comparison, Joshua found that Earl was still the worst of the lot. So, he started comforting Earl instead. He told Earl that he would soon find the best woman for him, seeing as there were so many other people in the world. The atmosphere took a turn for the better. After a few drinks, Joshua patted Earl on the shoulder. "The university is going to start selecting members for the official team, Big Earl. Isaac and I are going to sign up for tryouts. Are you interested?" Earl spread his hands. "I don't think I have the time. I have too many things to do." That didn't go down well with Joshua. "But it's clear that you've got skills. It'd be such a waste for you not to try out." Earl said helplessly, "I'd love to try, but I really don't have the time for it." Joshua and Isaac were disappointed that he wasn't trying out for the team. After all, everyone knew what he could do with a basketball. If he were to join the team, he would definitely be one of its strongest members. The team would have hope of finally taking back its spot as champion. Amid the disappointment, Joshua asked hopefully, "How about you give Isaac and me special training, then?" After the competition with the music faculty, he and Isaac had thoroughly realized that there would always be someone better out there. Joshua had found it hard to deal with someone of Flynn's level. Though he would never admit it, the competition had been a huge blow to his ego. He'd been practicing hard these days, but his improvement was limited because the people he trained with weren't exactly experts. He desperately wanted someone of better caliber to train him. He wanted to go up against people who were better than him. Battling someone who was better than him was the only way he would improve, and Earl was the person he most looked forward to taking on.